friends, as all of us are aware that cinema is an important concern in the field of the media studies, and recently a lot of interest has been generated in the cinema studies. And some of the film personalities over a period of time, they have influenced cinema to a lot of extent. And in this context, in this series, we will talk about some of the famous film personalities, those who have contributed to the field of cinema in their multi-dimensional manner. The way these film personalities, they have contributed not only in the context of being a film artist in the framework of being an actor, but at the same time also got involved in the context of writing as well as film direction. In this series, Satish Kaushik, I think that he is a multi-dimensional film personality, and he has played an important role in that sense, that the way he has engaged himself in cinema. And from a very humble beginnings, we find that the way he has been able to portray the various kinds of roles which have been offered to him, and many a times these roles they were not of a very long duration, but the kind of mark he was able to leave even in those small roles has been phenomenal. Apart from that, we also find that he has also contributed as a producer in terms of making films, and he has also directed a number of films which have become blockbusters. And we find that his first film as a director was not a super hit. It was a big flop, but we also realize that despite such a huge setback, the way he was able to bounce back, the way he was able to create some kind of a space for himself in the field of cinema, and the way he has been recognized not only in the cinematic field but at the same time on radio, on television. He has contributed a lot, and his radio program has been doing wonderfully. And at the same time, we also find that in the recent times he has also been involved in the OTT platform, in some of the film for the or the web series which he has done. They have also been very phenomenal in the context of his portrayals as well. In the context of the references or the film material which can be used, one can refer to films of Satish Kaushik, then www.wikipedia.com, Satish Kaushik's interview with Dr. Manoj Sharma, that is myself, and Satish Kaushik's talk at Montage, the Film Society of Kirodimal College. And I personally have interviewed him, and I've also met him several times. And as a film personality, he has come across as a phenomenal actor. The way he is able to communicate his ideas in a very simple language, and at the same time he is able to generate that kind of interest among the audience. So all these things, they make him some sort of a versatile person, not only as an actor but as a film producer, director, as a script writer. So he has that kind of a multi-dimensional role in the context of cinema, and the way he has carried forward his journey from being growing up in Delhi and then graduating from Kirodimal College, and thereafter joining National School of Drama, NSD, and he also joined FTII, Film and Television Institute of India. And we find that the way he also acted in a film called Jaane Bhi Do Yaaron, which was directed by Kundan Shah, and the film was produced by the National Film Development Corporation. So when we see this film, it was some sort of a dark satire on the rampant corruption in the Indian politics, bureaucracy, news media and business. And where we will find that even now this film is considered to be some sort of a cult film, and the dialogues, they were being written by Ranjit Kapoor and Satish Kaushik. And I remember an anecdote which was narrated by Satish Kaushik, that when he was offered that he will be able to write dialogues with Ranjit Kapoor, and this kind of a news was in a way heard by him, and So he was not concerned with the kind of money which will be offered to him. Rather, he was more concerned that how his name will appear or flash on the screen. So this is a hallmark of some sort of a dreamer, and the way he was able to carry himself in his film journey is can be some sort of a lesson for the people, those who want to join this industry. And I also remember in that talk he also talked about that how the one of the major highlights of that film was the Mahabharata scene, and how he purchased various kinds of, as you can see on the screen as well, various comics from Mumbai street, and he got this kind of an idea by reading those comics. And in 1984, Kundan Shah, who was the director of this film, he received the Indira Gandhi Award for Best Film of a Director. So we find that how this kind of a film, which was seen to be some sort of a cult film, and which was communicating the setting of the 1980s, and we find that the way Satish Kaushik also embarked on his journey, where he also became assistant director to Shekhar Kapoor in Masoom, and then he also performed as an actor in this film. And we also, as I told you initially, that his first film as a director was Roop Ki Rani Choron Ka Raja, which was not a successful film, but the kind of confidence or the self-confidence which he exhibited, and the kind of grit and determination which was shown by him in his later films, we find that though he was not able to give some kind of super hits or successful films in the initial career, but thereafter the way thereafter some of the films which were directed by him, for example Tere Naam, etc., they became quite popular, and they were very successful in nature as well. And one of the characters which he played in a film called Mr. India in 1987, the way he provided the support to Anil Kapoor, and his name was the calendar in the film, and how he helps the children in the science fiction superhero film. And these kind of names, these kinds of characters which were played by him, they are still popular, they are still remembered by the people, those who saw these kinds of films. And so this basically shows that how he was able to create this kind of an impact on the audience, that audience were able to remember him for a very short kind of a role which he performed in any of the film. And in the context, we also see that some of the later films like Tis Maar Khan, they also provide some kind of a reference to this film. And another reference could also be seen in Andaz Apna Apna, where Shahid Kapoor plays the role of Gogo, who is shown to be Mugambo's nephew. So we find that these kinds of films, they were also in a way remembered in the later times, and how Satish Kaushik, who played generally the role of a comic actor in these films, and despite the role having not such a kind of length, the way he was able to engage with the audience was remarkable in nature. And in a film called Ram Lakhan in 1989, he also received the trophy for the best comedian along with Anupam Kher. And we also find there were certain other films where he played supporting role to Govinda, for example, a film called Swarg, and how the way he was able to connect with the audience with the name of the airport. So these kinds of names, which were very unique in nature, but how they in a way stuck to the minds of the people, those who went and watched these films, was also very, very important. And we find that in this film, the way he becomes some sort of a friend or a well-wisher to Govinda, and later he in a way collaborates with him, and he becomes Chaddha for the enemies of Govinda, and how they were able to take revenge. And his support and his dedication as a friend was reflected in the film in a very sincere manner, and he was able to provide that kind of a weight to his role. We also find some other films as well where he also performed with Anupam Kher. There was a film called Jamai Raja in 1990, as you can see on the screen as well, where Satish Kaushik was nicknamed BBC and Anupam Kher was nicknamed DDT, and they were able to perform various hilarious scenes. And we also find that some other films like Deewana Mastana in 1997, where Satish Kaushik got popular name Pappu Pager, and these kinds of characters which were performed by Satish Kaushik in these films, and the various kinds of names which were there for Satish Kaushik in these films, and how he was able to do justice to these names, that these names are etched in the memory of the audience for a very long period of time. And we also find that though he added his name, though he has added the name of a technological device pager to his name in this film, and these dialogues, they became quite popular. And the way the other actors, they also collaborated, Govinda, Anil Kapoor and Juhi, all of them, they were able to leave a lot of mark in this film. Another film which I'd like to talk about, where we find that how this film called Sajan Chale Sasural, which was made in 1996, and where it was shown that Govinda was a villager who has a lot of interest in the music, and how he makes friends with Satish Kaushik, and he who plays the role of a South Indian tabla player, and later they become friends, and both and how Satish Kaushik is committed to Govinda, and the kind of various comedy sequences between them, and how Kader Khan is impressed with the musical abilities exhibited by Govinda and promotes him to a high position, and Satish Kaushik is closely connected to him, and the way he performed this character, it was not only genuine in that sense, but at the same time we find that he was able to generate a lot of laughter in this film. And we find that he was also given the Filmfare's Best Comedian Award or trophy, where we find that how Govinda in a way was playing a kind of a character where he had to marry twice because of some reasons, and these were the justified reasons, in the sense that it was being shown that his first wife had already died, but later it turned out that she had not died. So this kind of a situation which created a lot of comedy scenes, and Satish Kaushik was able to do justice in this film as well. We also find that there were other films like Pardesi Babu in 1998, where we find that how Govinda's prospective father-in-law asked him to earn 1 crore within a year before marrying Shilpa Shetty, and Govinda's friend Satish Kaushik, how they think in that sense that how they could make 10 million rupees from one just million which they could get from which they accidentally got, and how they enlist some kind of a scientist, Virendra Saxena, who has some kind of a secret recipe for tea, and they start selling their own brand of tea. And the kind of laughter which was generated in this film as well, with the combination of Govinda and Satish Kaushik. So in various films, his characters, they were not only doing some kind of a justice to the roles which were offered to him, but at the same time the kind of vivacity, the kind of variety which he provided to these roles was also very phenomenal in nature. And we find that in another film in 1998 with the title of Gharwali and Baharwali, where we find that there was some kind of a confusion which was created because of this. We find that how Anil Kapoor has to marry twice, and how Satish Kaushik is his friend and confident, and he plays that kind of a character where not only he was comic in nature, but many a times he is so emotional, where he is seen defending his friend all through the film. And the other characters like Ravina and Ramba, who were the female protagonists in this film, and a lot of situational comedy could be generated in this film. And finally, we realize that the situation of polygamy and the living together is also being justified in some manner. And the film also talks about the issue of the lineage, the kind of thirst for the successor of the house. And we find that he was able to provide a very powerful kind of a performance in this film. And some of the films which were directed by Satish Kaushik, where we find that he talks about the issue of the contract marriage in the film called Hum Aapke Dil Mein Rehte Hain, which is shown on the screen as well. And it had Anil Kapoor, Kajol, Anupam Kher and Shakti Kapoor. And this issue of contract marriage, which was only there for 1 year, was being depicted in this film. And such kind of films, they also try to show that how women characters, who are the female lead characters, they are strong women in nature. They are able to take such kind of decisions which are not conforming to the ideas of the society. So such kind of films which have also been made by Satish Kaushik, they talk about the status of women in the society. And some other films, for example, there was a film called Hamara Dil Aapke Paas Hai in 2000, where we see that how Anil Kapoor, Aishwarya Rai and Sonali Bendre, they are in the lead roles. And this film talks about or raises the issue of the rape victims as the outcast, and deals with the trauma of the rape victims, and how the perpetrators of rape are being shown as macho in the patriarchal society. So such kind of concerns are very relevant in the society, because these kinds of portrayals, as the role played by Aishwarya Rai, who is the female protagonist, and how despite being raped, she is being accepted by Anil Kapoor. And we are talking about a society which is more patriarchal, and which considers a victim to be the person who is to be accused for such kind of heinous crimes which are being perpetrated by the criminals on them. So such kind of portrayals, they not only raise the consciousness of the society, but they also in a way raises these kinds of questions, that what can be the possible solutions for such kind of problems or crimes which we see in the society on a daily basis. And newspapers and other media, they are flooded with such kind of issues. And this kind of a portrayal, which was very sensitive in nature, which was dealing with the issue of a rape victim, the way it was being handled by Satish Kaushik in a very sensitive manner, also shows his concern as well as sensitivity towards the subject as well. And he also played some kind of other roles, where in a film called Kyunki Main Jhoot Nahi Bolta in 2001, where he plays the role of a lawyer, and who is the friend of Govinda, and how he becomes some sort of a springboard for Govinda's dialogues. Thereafter, he also made a film called Tere Naam, which was based on a real life incident of a friend of a story writer, Bala, who had fallen in love, who lost his mind and ended up at a mental asylum. So we find that such kind of portrayals, which are based on even real life stories or incidents, they in a way communicate his sensitive mind, where he is concerned with the emotions of a person. And we also find that the film was a blockbuster. It was a hit film, and the kind of scenes which were more emotional, sympathetic in nature, and the various song sequences, they were also being handled very well by Satish Kaushik. He also acted in some of the foreign films like Brick Lane in 2007, which was a British drama film directed by Sarah Gavron, and it was adapted from 2003 novel of the same name by British writer Monica Ali. So in that portrayal where he is being portraying the role of Bangladeshi, and the way Bangladeshi community which is living in London, and some kind of concerns they were being raised, that they were being shown in a very negative manner. And the way Satish Kaushik was able to portray this character with a lot of depth and reality, that has also been seen. And as a director, he also made a film called Atiti Tum Kab Jaoge in 2010 with Paresh Rawal, and it talks about the problems of a big city where the culture of metropolitan is there, and how decay in the relations are being exhibited, and the kind of confusion which was being created by Paresh Rawal, where he was not the guest of the person in whose house he stayed. So this was a light-hearted situational comedy which in a way highlighted the problems of a metropolitan city where some kind of a decay in the relations is taking place. He also later acted in some of the films like Udta Punjab, where he portrayed the role of Tayaji, or the crew leader of lead singer Shahid Kapoor. It was not a very long performance or appearance, but the way these small appearances are there, they were able to create a powerful impact. In the similar manner, he also appeared in a film called Bharat, where he plays the role of a captain of a ship, and there also in a very short appearance, the way he was able to in a way create an impact on the audience. He also recently in 2019 he also starred in a Haryanvi film, and the theme of this film was a girl's struggle to study and become an IPS officer, and this film was titled as Choriyan Choron Se Kam Nahi Hoti. And we find in this film that the way he was able to portray the limitations of a father in a patriarchal society, and we also find that apart from being an actor, he also in a way started his own production company, Karol Bagh Productions, and thereafter the Satish Kaushik Entertainment. And he also was part of a TV countdown show, Philip's Top 10, and thereafter he was also doing a show on FM as well. And then in 2021, we find that Satish Kaushik also acted as well as directed a film called Kagaz, and he plays this role, which was a more extended role with customary aplomb, as talked about by Sebal Chatterjee. And the plot of this film is based on the life and struggle of Lal Bihari, a farmer from a small village of Amilo Mubarakpur, who was declared dead on official papers. So this was again taken from a real life incident where a person who was alive but he was declared as dead in the administrative papers, that was also being talked about. And he has also worked on the web series like Charge Sheet, Innocent or Guilty, Scam 1992, Bloody Brothers in 2022. So we find that his work has been continuing even now, and the way he is able to connect with the audience has increased. This kind of an impact has increased over a period of time, and the kind of role which the multidimensional role which he has played in the Indian cinema will be remembered for times to come, because he has not been only as an actor, but he is also there as a creative person, as a director, as a producer, even as a storyteller, as well as a script writer as well. So this kind of a multi-dimensional approach of Satish Kaushik in the Indian cinema, where he was able to enthrall the audience for so many years, beginning from 1980s, and now we are talking about 2022, where even now he has been so active. So in this discussion, we were able to highlight the kind of aspects, as there are so many films of Satish Kaushik, and it was not possible to discuss all of them in this short period of time. So some important ones they have been taken, but his contribution to the Indian cinema will be remembered for a very long period of time. Thank you very much.